and dolls, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, warm welcome, and if you've come back again and again, I appreciate all your views and thank you to my new subscribers. Hope you stick around, and yeah, so let's get right into it. This is the fourth video in my Paranormal or Not series. I just wanted to reiterate where I get this information from, but I have to be a little cryptic because of what's going on as far as me posting and all that good stuff. I can't really get into it because I want my information posted. So go back to my first video. You'll see the main, you'll see the book and the author of where I've gotten the bulk of the information if you're really curious. Also, I wanted to, very quick reminder, when I say the powers that be, I'm talking about the royalty that rules around the world and our government officials. And this bears repeating. You probably have heard it in my previous video, so sorry if you've already heard this. You can kind of fast forward a little bit. When I'm talking about reptilians, I'm talking about the reptoids. There are, I believe, 3 factors, plus other extraterrestrials are in the mix, but the group that I'm talking about, the people that I'm talking about, are in a really teeny tiny group. As you know, there are 13 families that rule the world, and when I say that name-wise, now, within those 13 families, there's like hundreds of branches, and it's kind of like a tree. You have your main tree of people, and then all the roots just go, they spread throughout. Right above them are those reptoids. I'm talking about the reptilians that are in the lower 4th dimension, which actually I think are the most powerful because they have taken over these families around the world, royal and government-wise, and government officials, and it goes on and on. Then you have the reptilians that have been on the planet for hundreds of years, that even when we were not as we are today, the advanced humans that we are. And the third faction are just the other breeds that are under them, that work for them, that do their dirty work and do all the grunt work. So just to be clear, because I'm always saying the powers that be, and you probably aren't really sure what the heck I'm talking about. Yeah, so I've mentioned this throughout my videos. Just I wanted you to be reminded. Hopefully you're not too confused. If you haven't seen my other 3 videos, you probably will be. So you may want to look at those before you listen to this one. But let me go ahead and get started. Per usual, please comment, like, subscribe, tell me what you think. I love interacting. Some of you are commenting more and more, and I love it. I have stuff to say. I will answer your questions. I will interact with you. You know, I will definitely stop to answer any questions or comment on anything that you feel strongly about. Okay, so drugs that alter the mind. Drugs is one of the most powerful weapons used by the Babylonian Brotherhood against the human race. Opium, this is where heroin comes from. This is the drug that has been referred to in the Sumerian clay tablets. They called it the joy plant. Also mentioned by Egyptians and Greeks around 1500 to 1000 BC. Opium was used as a weapon by the British in the Opium Wars against China in 1840 and 1858. Chinese rulers acted to stop the supply of opium, but were defeated. This is how the British were able to have control over strategic ports in China, and how Hong Kong came under British rule. British reptilian bloodline families worked with other American relatives to expand the drug trade that still happens today. After the Second Opium War, which ended in 1860, the British merchant banks and trading companies established the Hong Kong-Shanghai Corporation as the central bank of the Far East Drug Company. Hong Kong Bank and Shanghai Bank, with its global connections, continues to be the financial center for the drug industry today. Hong Kong and Shanghai Bank now call itself HSBC. Sound familiar? Because I know HSBC Bank sounds very familiar to me. So Hong Kong and HSBC owns one of the 4 British clearing banks, the Midland, which has now taken the same name, HSBC. Unfortunately, the masses would never really be aware of what banks are being used for, and these are the following things that banks get used for every single day without even us knowing. The only reason why I know a little bit more because I was a teller and I worked in an operations department for a bank, so I know quite a bit about banking. So they have laundering, and this is the passing of money from account to account, so it becomes lost in a web of transactions. How do I know this? Because we had to fill out forms. If someone came in consecutively with $5,000 in cash, we had to fill out a form, or if we felt that they were doing shady things, I had to inform the bank. If it was $10,000, then they really did have to fill out that form. I don't know how things are now, if it's more, you know, if you have to do more, but when I was a teller, that's what I had to do. Gold and diamonds. These industries, dominated by the Rothschilds and Oppenheimers, used companies like De Beers, who hasn't heard of De Beers, to wash money. Money buys gold and diamonds from these companies, and they are sold to produce green money. Oh, nice. Alcohol prohibition was a huge means to create the massive networks of organized crime in the U.S. This was all a con financed by the Brotherhood through names like Rockefeller, Vanderbilts, and Warburgs. And I know if you've watched any of my videos, those names come up time and time and time and time again. Vietnam War, also used as a conduit for drug smuggling. CIA helicopters would carry drugs to distribution points. A Pepsi-Cola company, a bottling plant, was even used for the same purpose. CIA even smuggled drugs inside the dead bodies of soldiers going home from Vietnam. The bodies carried secret codes, asked to be identified, especially by the Travis Air Force Base in California. Heroin is a derivative of the opium poppy, which also produces morphine. In 1898, Bayer Labs in Germany created heroin by adding ingredients to the morphine molecule. We all know what horrors morphine did back in the day. It's horrible to say that without the drug trade, the world economy would collapse. That is why they don't want you to know about all those natural cures there are out there, especially food-grade hydrogen peroxide. I will do a video on that if you want to hear what that's all about. But yeah, they will do anything in their power to cover up anything that will naturally cure you. The drug trade is not only about making huge amounts of money, its main design is to break down societies and stop young people from living up to their potential. Mind control. Now, I'm sure you've heard all kinds of rude. So sorry. Give me 1 second. Sorry. Okay, so mind control. Now, everyone's heard of mind control, and it's rampant out there. Satanic networks are a vital part of the global mind control programs created to provide a race of mindless zombies and endless flow of mind-controlled assassins, crazed gunmen, and provoking agents. Put it simply, mind control slave. And we have lots of examples. Oh God, what are the most recent, bombings or shootings? Remember all the recent shootings we've had where people have been in a concert and a guy just sprays the crowd? I mean, I can't remember specifically what areas or what cities, but you know what I'm talking, the Ariana Grande concert. And is that ringing a bell to anyone? Yeah. Okay, mind control. The control of the human mind and emotions is the foundation of reptilian control. Control a person's mind and you control them. External manipulation of the mind. Newspapers, TV news, advertisements, movies, and magazines. And it goes on and on and on. Books. These are all outward mind control, because if you believe it and you're reading it and you're like, oh my God, and you take it to heart, and you're consistently believing and trusting the news and the governments and the officials and everything that they have to say, that's pretty much mind control. They know that you will, so they just continue to feed you, and it gets worse and worse and worse, and further down the rabbit hole you go. Brigadier General John Rawling Rees. The emergence of today's mind control centers and operations can be traced back to this man, which directly connects to Tavistock Clinic, founded in 1920. This place was supported by the British royal family, of course, through the Duke of Kent. Later comes Tavistock Institute of Human Relations in London, which includes the Stanford Institute in the US. The aim was to control humanity via the external manipulation of the mind. Rees was a supporter of eugenics. If you don't know what that is, please look it up. Master race movement. He believed that under the right conditions, neurotic behavior could be stimulated and controlled. Why you would want to control a neuroses or a neurotic behavior, don't even ask me, I don't know. 1945, Tavistock Group demonstrated during the Second World War there was a psychopathological tenth of the population who are genetically stupid. Who is this person to say anybody's stupid? But this is in the history books. I just can't believe it. The numbers of these people had to be controlled to protect the civilized societies. Don't even get me started. Reese wanted psychiatrists involved in all of society, home, work, and schools. He put together shock troops, psychiatrists posing as advisors in business, military, political, and educational management to control the direction of the world. Can you imagine? Can you imagine all of these people in schools who are supposed to help you and guide you? Some of them have been directed and manipulated by the government, and who knows if they still are today. Oh my God. Okay, so 1947. His vision was taken to the United States and formed the World Federation of Mental Health with Montego Norman, the governor of the Bank of England, who founded and manipulated Adolf and the Nazis to power. In turn, dozens of affiliated organizations with identical agendas joined. Some of the many who hired Tavistock. So these are some of the companies who actually hired that company. Shell, under the coal industry, then government owned, and a number of leading financial institutions. So you can imagine. Tavistock was behind the drug culture of the 1960s and hippie movement, tune in, drop out philosophy. This in addition to the Brotherhood CIA, which made LSD widely available. Josef Mengele, Angel of Death. Under the guise of this psychological warfare with Germany and Italy, he conducted mind control experiments on thousands of twins under the supervision of Heinrich Himmler in Berlin. He was an expert in demonology and the Kabbalah and was at least a Grand Master in the Illuminati. He was also the doctor at Auschwitz. In 1945, when Allied armies were closing in on Germany, the U.S. intelligence operation called Project Paperclip allowed him and the elite Nazi leadership scientists, doctors, and military personnel to escape his mind control research found from working in concentration camps. To escape his mind control research. Now, in these concentration camps, everything that they found from all the experiments they did is still classified, so we're still not allowed to know everything. Shortly after Project Paperclip and the mind control programmers, who were coordinated by the Dulles brothers, ring a bell, Dulles Airport, cousins to the Rockefellers, came the new Central Intelligence Agency. Coordinated by the Dulles brothers, I said Dulles Airport, all that are cousins to the Rockefellers, came the new Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA. So I hope I'm like showing the connection of how all this mind control began and how it just took hold really quickly. From the influx of Nazi mind doctors into the US came the new notorious mind control programmers, MK Ultra. MK, mind control. K, due to German Nazis who inspired the techniques. That's why they call it MK Ultra. So MK Ultra, headed by Ewen, it's E-W-E-N, Ewen Cameron, and he was a very sick individual and a member of the elite Scottish reptilian bloodlines. His favorite book as a child was Frankenstein. That book inspired him into psychiatry. Funding came from Rockefellers, and I just can't. It blows my mind how many times you see the Rockefeller name. It really does. In 1 year, he administered over 60,000 electric shocks to patients. In 1961, his code name became Dr. White, and color was a part of his research. He was trying to discover how to make brown eyes blue. Can it really be a coincidence that the country singer Crystal Gayle, who was reported to be a mind-controlled slave, made a hit record, Don't It Make My Brown Eyes Blue? I don't know. I didn't look into that, so I don't know how true that is, but I might. I'm doing so much research. That kind of blew my mind. But anyway, Admiral Steinfeld Turner, director of the CIA in 1977, admitted publicly that millions had been spent studying voodoo, witchcraft, and psychics at a Senate hearing on August 3rd, 1977, that the CIA had been mind-controlling countless people without their consent or knowledge. MK Ultra involved at least 185 scientists 180 U.S. institutions, among them prisons, pharmaceutical companies, hospitals, and 44 medical colleges and universities. 700 drugs are used by the Babylonian Brotherhood professors in human-controlled projects. Jim Jones, I know you have to know who this guy is. He supposedly was a CIA operative, hence all the drugs found in Jonestown, it was a mind control experiment. I know about Jonestown. It was a horrific catastrophe. If you don't know about it, it's definitely worth looking into. In the end, any form of drug that can suppress consciousness and will is used, especially when it is used in vaccinations, food additives, and electromagnetic techniques. Monsanto is heavily involved with genetically manipulating food. I definitely would stay away from any foods that they produce, because they're the ones who are trying to get every fruit and vegetable to be seedless, so that you would never be able to plant. Not that you would, I don't know, those of you who have houses or greenhouses, you guys can do that. You can take the seeds, you can get watermelons to grow, lemons, oranges, whatever it is. My mom has done it in her own backyard. But yeah, lovely Monsanto. Worst mind control is trauma-based. Project Monarch, offshoot of MK Ultra, not only continues today, under other names, it's gotten bigger. So the names have just kind of changed. From what I read, some of the ways you can tell, let's say if you're in the military and you're under MK Ultra, not all the time, but some of them I heard have the monarch tattoo somewhere on their body. Monarch butterfly tattoo. Your mind has a defense mechanism which compartmentalizes memory of extreme trauma, and amnesia is created around the event so that you don't keep reliving it. Mengele and the Nazis figured out if you could systematically traumatize someone through torture, sexual abuse, and sacrificing others as they watched, a person's mind would shatter into a honeycomb of self-contained compartments, or amnesiac barriers. Satanic rituals are used to do this. Once the mind is shattered, these compartments can be programmed for tasks or experiences. You are then able to be triggered by trigger words, hypnotic keys, sounds, or signals. These moments can be pulled and pushed back like opening and closing a drawer. People who are put through this can appear unstable once the programming or the walls of the honeycomb begin to fall apart. It's really sad because they have to go through that process in order for you to know something's wrong with them. And not a lot of them do. Hey guys, okay, I would not recommend the Sony A5100 to do YouTube videos. I mean, it's a pretty good camera, but it's obviously a lot of my videos, I have to come back and finish them because it's not taping. So anyway, here goes. I wanted to finish this video. I wasn't going to leave it undone. So I'm going to pick up where I left off. Okay, so Kathy O'Brien, and she has a book called The Transformation of America. That's TRANCE. Her and Mark Phillips. Mark Phillips was the one that did help her get out of the spell she was under. So she is one of these mind control victims. She was taken through a long deprogramming process which lasted over a year. Just from what I've read, there was a snippet that I read through an Amazon. If you go on Amazon, you can get like a little bit of the book, and from what I read, it was really hard to read, so I'm not going to mention anything. If you're interested in it, read the sample. Well, she was one of those people who was chosen to be mind controlled. And these people who are chosen to be put through this process are handpicked. They need to be highly intelligent and come from parents who have been tortured and sexually abused as well. The mind control process is brutal, and for that unfortunate person, it begins in the womb. Now, these are a few of the processes used to traumatize a human being. In the womb, the child and mother are impaled with long, thin needles, long enough to reach the fetus. First 18 months after the child is born, it's given love and attention. The life thereafter, that period, is the exact opposite, and it tragically puts the child in a shocking state of trauma. Once a bit older, they are forced to commit sexual acts with adults, other children, and even animals, and these acts are sometimes taped and passed around. So a mind control victim person can have one or more handlers. It could be a wife or a husband. Before technology was what we have today in these elite circles, you could spot a handler by a gray spiraled notebook. It was a 3-ring notebook. It was gray, and now it's usually an iPad or a computer. Inside the book were codes, names, signals, all the trigger information needed to control or command the person. Of course, the handler is a victim of the same horror, but now they are the inflictor of the horror. Hollywood celebrities going back to the 40s and 50s, even farther back, have been handlers along with government official, heads of state, royalty around the world, and many other people of wealth and power. It's depressing to see the names of people listed from the past and present that it just makes Jeffrey Dahmer, if you know who he is, seem tame and meek. If you can stomach it, I would recommend looking up and researching the stories of these 2 women who somehow escaped alive. And of course, that is Arizona Wilder and Kathy O'Brien. Her book, Trans State of America. There is so much more I could say, but if you want answers, names, locations, do some research, read the books I've recommended. This info will change you. It will open your eyes to reality and what is really going on in the super elite circles. It's a very small group with a world of power. This mind-warping power is touching every genre there is: music, television, movies. Anyone making millions a year, a month, what have you, is being affected and manipulated in some way to forward the agenda. Even if it isn't mind control, they will bait the trap. The mouse will fall for lies, promises, money, power. They catch the person in a compromising situation, bam, they have you, no mind control needed. Celebrities especially are controlled this way. They're told if they say anything or don't do what they are told, info will be released and they lose everything. The Bohemian Grove, and of course this still exists today. This is supposed to be a resort, supposedly, and it usually has a list of 1,500 people waiting to be a part of it. To join is $2,500 and it's $600 a month in fees. It's 75 miles north of San Francisco in California in Sonoma County. It's a place for leading American politicians, mobsters, bankers, businessmen, top entertainers who are tied to the Babylonian Brotherhood. This is where they go to enjoy and partake in anything from satanic rituals to any sexual exploit you can imagine. Some of the people seen there were people like George Bush, Gerald Ford, Henry Kissinger, Dick Cheney, Alan Greenspan, head of the Federal Reserve, Ronald Reagan, Richard Nixon, and the list goes on and on. Be reminded that the candidates for programming are people who look like Kathy O'Brien, blonde-haired, blue-eyed Caucasians who are not physically defective in any way. These people are linked to the Brotherhood bloodline families. They also use breeder women, and these are women who unofficially give birth to the children of these bloodlines, who are then swapped out or sent to foster parents or mothers who suddenly give birth when no one knew they were pregnant, because they weren't. This is how they are able to place those children, those people, when they grow up, in politics, banking, business, the media, military, without an outcry from the public that the same families are in all the same positions of control. Now, the false memory scan. As people were awakening from their mind control, Arizona Wilder, Kathy O'Brien started to wake up. Their programming began to fall apart. Arizona, because her programmer was Joseph Mengele, going too fast. Joseph Mengele, he died. And Kathy, because she was rescued and deprogrammed, along with others. They started to speak out. The FMSF Foundation was created. False Memory Syndrome Foundation began in the US in 1992. It was fronted by Pamela Frey and her husband, which sought to discredit their stories. But Pamela Frey and her husband have both been accused by their daughter Jennifer of abusing her as a child. Different branches of the EMSF appeared in other countries, including UK, dismissing or discrediting all their stories. But Dr. Ralph Underwager, one of the leaders of the EMSF, was forced out when it was revealed publicly that he and his wife, another dynamic duo, had given an interview to a Dutch pedophilia magazine called Etika in 1993, where he said that sex with children was an acceptable expression of God's will for love. I don't know about you, but I know who I choose to believe. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is a secret code of communication. If you can kind of pull apart how they speak to each other and how their messages are put out into the world, because they are putting these messages right below our noses and we're not picking up on it. So in order to understand a secret society's code of communication, you need to be familiar with their phrases, words, funny handshakes, and symbols. This is one way they can be tracked and read. These are some of their symbols and meanings. The lighted torch. This is a symbol of knowledge and the sun. When an initiate of the Brotherhood reaches a certain level in the pyramid, they are said to be illuminated. And one receiving story in the ancients' world is a hero figure who takes fire, knowledge from the gods, and gives it to the people, the chosen few people. From the Book of Enoch, the Watchers, the extraterrestrials, Azazel, Shemayaza, were among those who gave advanced knowledge to humans. The statue of Prometheus, Rockefeller Center, that big gold statue. Gold, the solar metal of the gods, and he is holding the light, the fire, in legend. The Rockefellers, to the Rockefellers, this wasn't just a statue, it symbolizes the scam they are all involved in. The Statue of Liberty. This is another Brotherhood symbol, highlighting the lighted torch. Okay? She is actually the Statue of Liberties, meaning the liberties perpetrated on the American people by the Brotherhood. She was given to New York by French Freemasons, and her mirror image stands on an island in the River Seine in Paris. She is a representation of Queen Semiramis and Isis, with the rays of the sun around her head. The ancients symbolized the sun in this way. She is not holding a torch of liberty, but the torch of illuminated ones, the reptile Aryan elite. Basically, they are screaming, "We control this country. We are telling you so, but we're too stupid to see it." President Kennedy, assassinated in 1963, they put a lighted torch on his grave in the Arlington Cemetery. Princess Diana, the Pont de l'Alma tunnel in Paris. The shrine to her was a large gold symbol of eternal flame held by two statues of liberty on the top of the tunnel where her car crashed into the 13th pillar. Atlanta, I'm talking about the state in the US. The goddess Huntress, who was said to be such a great athlete no one could beat her. It was said she and her bridegroom were turned into lions and pulled the chariots of the great mother of the gods. Now, when one of the Olympic Games was held in Atlanta, they allowed multi-millions to be spent on roads and infrastructure in a city reported to be a major center for the New World Order after the millennium. The pyramid, or pyramid with capstone missing. The street plan of Dealey Plaza, where Kennedy was killed, is shaped like a pyramid with the capstone missing. Dealey means goddess line, D-E-A, goddess, and L-Y, ley line. Third eye, or the all-seeing eye, or the Eye of Horus, most famously on the $1 bill. It mainly symbolizes the reptilians looking into this world from the lower fourth dimension. If you have a magnifying glass, you can see the skin kind of looks reptilian if you have a dollar bill. Then number 13, the number of states of America at the time of independence, 13. On the Great Seal of the dollar bill, on the two sides are 13 stars above the head of the eagle. The motto E Pluribus Unum has 13 letters, just like Annuit Coepitus. The eagle holds 13 leaves with 13 berries in its right talon and 13 arrows in the left. There are 72 stones in the pyramid arranged in 13 rows. The eagle evolved from the symbol of the phoenix, the sacred sunbird of the ancient Egyptians. Native American version is the sunbird, and it can be found on the coat of arms of many countries: Egypt, Libya, Iraq, Nazi Germany, on designs of pulpits and lecterns used by Christian churches. Seals like the Great Seal of the US can be traced back to at least 4000 BC to Egypt, Babylonian Assyria, and India. Domes and obelisks. I think these are the most obvious. Common sites in the monuments and buildings of the Brotherhood. The obelisk is an ancient phallic symbol of male energy, solar energy. The dome represents the female or moon energy. Often they are placed together or close to each other. Example, the Oval Office, the womb of the female. This looks out onto the Washington Monument, the phallic male symbol. There are many more. These structures hold great energy and affect the environment and the people around them. Washington. The entire city was designed purposely structured to form pentagrams, pyramids, and even the owl that represents Moloch pops up in the grand scheme of the whole city's design. Key buildings like Congress are designed to mark the places the sun rises and sets at the winter and summer solstice. There is so much more to get into, but if you do the research, it'll shock you. Other popular symbolism, some seen across the country, the Columbia organization, which is Columbia Pictures, the lady holding the lighted torch. Squares. One square by itself means control of what is right and just. This is where fair and square come from, and square deal comes from. One square on top of another means control of all that is right and that is wrong. Example, the Chevron Gas Company logo. The double cross. The double cross of the House of Lorraine is the origin of the double cross, someone to manipulate them. Example, Rockefeller guided oil giant Exxon gas sign. So the Exxon with the double X. Texaco, the pentagram insider circle with the T square of the Freemasons. And Amoco has the torch in the middle of the name. The symbolism is everywhere and it goes on and on and on. Hand signals. When an American president puts his hand on his breast while listening to the national anthem, they are performing part of a Freemasonic ritual. And last but not least, when you put your hand in the air with the two outer fingers pointing upwards and two middle fingers held down by the thumb, that signifies the devil or Baphomet. Clinton made this sign in 1993 after his inaugural speech. I know this is a lot of information. Hopefully I didn't bore you to tears, but I am doing this in hopes that it at least opens your mind. It gives you information based in the past, and it kind of has a flow to it. It goes through the years and you can see how everything connects. I apologize that the last half of this video has to be in not the best lighting and with me kind of sitting on my bed, but I really did want to finish. Guys, I hope it has opened the eyes for some of you, and I don't know, made you want to do, or has made you want to ask questions and do more research yourself. I'm going to end it with make good research decisions and know that there is a way out, there is hope for us yet, but knowing this information is part of that power that we can regain and try to, fight this. So until my next video, I will see you then.